It's not how I make my money.
About a few specific things. In Ohio 2004, were you involved with
No, I mean, by
Ohio
2004, I was neck deep in
yeah.
FBI agents and DOJ and my own attorneys, so.
But you weren't, did you ever run across Ken Blackwell or any of those?
Yeah, well, actually, Ken Blackwell had been the chairman for Steve Forbes' campaign, so I had met Ken, mostly in context of the Forbes campaign and actually getting Steve Forbes on the ballot in Ohio. But I know where you're going with this, and that's the 2004 debacle.
Yeah.
You know.
So, did you ever get any wind of anything that was going on in Ohio, or how they were?
Now at that point, who's going to talk to me? I'm persona non grata. But I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, you know, it's. I mean, I can give you my opinion.
Okay.
And my opinion is, you know, the stories speak for themselves. You know, you go down, you get online, you're in time, but then they cut it off because the polls are closing. Well, that, you know, on its face doesn't speak right. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. You know, if I went, you know, I can't vote anymore, but you know, if I got online at 5 and the polls close at 7 and I'm still online, you're going to tell me I can't vote? That's absurd on its face. So, and why is that? So you got to ask the question, why is that? Because there's not enough capacity? Well, why isn't there enough capacity? There should be enough capacity. And that's a problem. And that's a problem that is, you know, is on the doorstep of the Secretary of State or whatever state we might be talking about.
What about Ohio? I mean, Florida 2000. Were you involved with that at all?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't. I mean, again, you got to remember, I was not involved with the Bush campaign ever in any level at any time. I wasn't part of the Brooks Brothers riot or anything like that.
Yeah.
And those, you know, those are clearly, you know, clearly that's an orchestrated thing, the Brooks Brothers riot.
Well, you mentioned that in your book,
yeah.
Where you said that if you see people rallying at some of these political events, that it's not some spontaneous.
No, it never is.
It's all directed by somebody like you.
Yeah, yeah. The story you're relating is. I don't want to give it away, but when I was working the convention floor in 1996, and talking to a friend of mine who was watching the convention, and I was kind of getting my section of the convention to do stuff. He was like, "What do you want to do next?" You know, get them to stand on their head type of thing. Yes, anytime you see that stuff, that's all artificial. But no, I mean, I wasn't involved in Florida. Now, my opinion of that is, you know, that it was a travesty. Because, and again, it's a very self-serving thing, and it has nothing to do with Bush, really. But one of the stories I tell in the book is, I was relieved on the first report that Bush had lost Florida.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was because I was in the business of Republican politics, and I knew if Bush won, he was going to be in the White House, his folks were going to control the RNC, and I'd be out in the cold. And that wasn't good for business for me. So I was relieved when those first reports came in. So when the second reports came in that he had won, you know, my stomach turned, and I knew that.
I know in the book you make a statement that you knew, even though there was going to be 6 weeks of legal battles, that Bush was never going to give that baby up. I think it's
right.
So you knew that just because he plays hard or he plays dirty, or
well, because I put my money on Jim Baker over what's his name, the Democrats, Warren Christopher any day.
Yeah. Is it because of the mentality or the toughness or the?
Yeah, I think it's mentality, and I think it's rigorous, and this is not something to lose. You're not going to lose this election. And you're talking about 536 votes? Mm-hmm. No way, man.
Now, did you ever run across the law firm Greenberg Torrig?
Yeah, well, only insofar as that was Mr. Abramoff's lobbying firm, right?
Right.
No, I never did any work. Look, those are the delay guys. They had a whole thing going on over there. Now, a guy who used to work for me wound up over there working, but I mean, he's just an innocent bystander in the whole thing. But what you're getting at is important, and that is that politics is a business. this is not the town village or the village square anymore. It's not what we're talking about. Politics is a business. I've got a master's degree in political management. You can get a master's degree in lobbying. The same way you can, and I don't equate it with an MBA or a JD. I kind of equate it more to I don't know, a trade school like Apex Tech or something. But in fact, it is a master's degree, and that should tell you something. That should tell you something about how we treat our political system. And I said this in the Boston Globe a while ago, and I believe it's true. I think Republicans, both parties monetize government, but in different ways. Republicans monetize government through contracts, money, lobbying contracts, government contracts, you know, whatever. Democrats are a little bit different. They monetize it through entitlement programs and, you know, essentially institutionalizing things that lock people into voting a certain way. Because again, I mean, there are two parties here, and they both have, you know, they're not lily white on either side. And so it's a different way of treating government, and it's a different way of leveraging government. I can just speak to the Republican side of it. And Republicans they're very good at monetizing government.